now on our left-hand side, during the we would have had naval warships that were moored on chains and anchors, and they would have been serviced by tugs and barges. Here to our left, there was one such ship that was moored, a vessel called HMS Bulwark. She was being serviced by a barge that was loading her with cordite charges. Early one November morning, the ship violently exploded, sending shards of metal, glass, slittering it over a 10-mile radius. 700 men were sent to their deaths. The ship still lays on the bottom, here to our left. She sits roughly between the red and green buoy. I like to think of these buoys acting as like a set of navigation lights, though she doesn't actually appear above the surface. Loads of metal framework sits protruding to the mud. It's thought that during the loading process of these cordite charges, an apprentice took one of those charges, placed it down next to a bulkhead. As we know, cordite is quite volatile when it's heated. The other side of this bulkhead was the ship's boilers, and perhaps that sent the ship to the bottom. Now, you would have thought that the Royal Navy would have learned from their incident, but actually, just 6 months later, in April 1915, another violent explosion echoed around the Medway Basin. This time, a 130-metre ocean-going liner, a vessel called the Princess Irene. She detonated just off of the Isle of Grain. This time, she was loading sea mines that were bound for France. A further 320 lives were lost. But it wasn't just the lives that were on board the ship. This one, a young girl who was playing in her back garden on the Isle of Grain, was killed by falling debris. Now, if you fancy taking a little visit to the Guildhall Museum in Rochester, great little museum there, it tells you all about the history of the river, and certainly the two incidents here, the two exploded ships, the Bulwark behind us and the Irene, which is again in front of us, only marked today by a black and red buoy. They've dived these wrecks, they've picked up a few artefacts, and they've actually placed them on display to the general public. It's one of those museums that actually a lot of people do visit, but actually does hold a great deal of wealth. Birtwick Island is here to our right, and whilst Birtwick Island was predominantly a sheep farm up until 1912, it suffered from rising sea levels, and eventually it was abandoned. It was onto this island during the Second World War where we experimented with a special pipeline. This was Operation Pluto. Pluto stood for Pipeline Under the Ocean. We knew D-Day was going to happen. We needed to prepare for it. Once D-Day was successful, we then needed to continue the fight and get our troops the supplies that they needed to keep them advancing. Food, ammunition, water, troops, fuel to keep the artillery rolling. Various different methods of getting fuel across to France were dreamt up of, including the construction of a number of concrete barges up in central London, but these were never actually deployed, or eventually sold off after the war. But Operation Pluto was a far more successful method. This pipeline was a special lead line pipe that was stored on huge, they look like bobbins floating around. They could be rolled out across the English Channel to Floyd, and two pipelines were eventually connected between Dungeness and Saint-Gat in France, and then another one between the Isle of Wight and Shanklin over to Cherbourg. Pluto was a success, and it was all experimented with at this point in the river. Because over our left, we had the main fuel depot for our artillery. So coming up to the Isle of Grain, and this was all a large military base. To Today, these silos to our left store aviation fuel, where it's taken from here underneath London by pipe, it's not taken by road, towards the Heathrow and Gatwick. Not many people know the exact route of that pipeline, but it does exist. You can Google it. I won't show you the metre by metre exact route. It's a closely guarded secret, for obvious reasons. Further on downriver, we find a container terminal known as Thames Port. And Thames Port was just a fancy name given to the terminal that was there to unload ships, trying to attract shipping agents into the River Medway, trying to convince them that actually the Thames that flows through London, this terminal, is another good bet to get their cargoes closer to London. The container ships, however, outgrew the terminal. It's so small, it's only really fed now by what we call feeder ships. Small ships that would sail from here, taking cargoes across the places like Holland and Rotterdam, to then be offloaded and placed onto those big ships. Because so little traffic goes through here, the port of Medway have been using the terminal for other methods, including lay-by berths. And today we actually have the Hampton Thames and Dredger and her sister ship, Marco Avon, alongside, either carrying out a crew change or some repair work alongside. They're not discharging them with green ships, they are just there. About the Princess Irene, the ship that exploded after carrying sea mines. And if you look over to our left-hand side, you'll see the black and red buoy. This is an isolated danger mark. It sits over the top of that wreck. Behind it, an aggregate berth known as Isle of Grain number 6. This small little aggregate berth today unloads roads. Maybe brought in from North Wales, Llandudno. It's sent to shore, where it's actually taken out of here by rail, a lot of it going into the construction of our rail networks. But this single-track railway line that runs into Isle of Grain number 6 was not constructed there purely for moving aggregates. In fact, it was part of the military base here to our left. This single-track railway line runs into our rail network back at the Higham sidings, roughly between Gravesend and Strood. It used to carry passengers, in particular men heading to war. We've all seen the videos or the photographs of the men jumping on the trains at the London stations, heading to war, waving their loved ones off. Well, those trains had to come somewhere, and they came off of the rail networks at Gravesend, heading on out here towards the Isle of Grain. And that rail network, railway, used to then run out onto a jetty. This jetty was called Port Victoria. Although the jetty burnt down in the 1950s, a big fire took place on the jetty and a lot of it was destroyed. The rail station was then moved back onto the shore and eventually was closed down. The remains of Port Victoria still be seen today. If we look underneath jetty number 10, jetty number 8 here at the LNG terminal, underneath the remains of Port Victoria, little wooden stumps sticking up out of the mud. You only really see it at low tide. Men would abide the trains, jump into boats, and they'd be brought out into the salt pan reach here, which is where we are, and they would join their various warships, or perhaps steamers that would then be taking them across the English Channel over towards Holland. Steamers just like the Princess Irene. So the LNG power station there today is the power station of the Isle of Grain. It's a generating plant that helps keep electricity running into the national grid, burning natural gas that is imported from around the world, including Siberia, Gulf of Mexico, and Saudi Arabia. And at one point we were getting it from Siberia, but that has all stopped now because of the Russian sanctions. Just see, there's the old concrete one behind the new Gulf. So very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be turning the vessel into a small little inlet to starboard. So there to our right-hand side, we're going to be making our way up the Swale Navigation, a body of water that effectively passes around the back of the island Sheppey. We're going to be stopping in at a small pier known as Queenborough All-Time Landing. We'll be picking up a few passengers, and then we'll be on our way over towards Southend. So we are due away from this pontoon at 10 o'clock, so please bear with us. We're going to be as quick as we can to try and get everybody loaded, and we'll then be on our merry way again. Hopefully getting you over to Southend for around about 11:15. That 11:15 train. Okay, so we.
Passing just some ginormous windmills, and I don't understand why they are not spinning, because we do have wind. Anyway, we are getting to Queenborough shortly. Enjoyed it so far, and I'm so happy that the captain is sharing useful information with us, so I don't have to tell you all that he said it. I'm just not sure about the audio quality, so as always, until I get home and look through the video, it's all a mystery. You don't realize how many boats there are on the river of all different sorts until you travel on it. And this is a sister, a little ferry of the same tour thing I'm on, jet stream. beautiful boats. Absolutely gorgeous. Tiny harbour office. Now, where are the people? Okay. Okay, so people are on the other side. On the other side. Okay, more people are joining us. I've spotted some interesting birds closer to the shore. I think it's an egret or some sort of heron, but I can't see it properly. And there was a ducking one. There you are. I don't know if it shows because the sun is straight shining on and I'm squinting and not seeing, but obviously the bird is looking for its late breakfast. There it is. I forgot what it's called. I know its name, but it's completely gone out of my head. They're absolutely beautiful. They're excellent fisher birds.
Just for those passengers that have joined us, we do have to quickly provide you a very quick safety announcement to let you know that the vessel you are on, crew 2. In the unlikely event of an emergency, should remain calm at all times and follow strict instructions given to you by any member of the crew. My name is Richard, I'm your captain today, and assisting me with the vessel we have Sean and Chris. Please feel free to come and talk to us at any point throughout your day. More than happy to help. Sit back, relax, enjoy your crossing. There is a bar downstairs selling a variety of refreshments from teas, coffees, alcoholic beverages. So if anyone would like any drinks along the way, please do head on downstairs. Toilets are also located downstairs. Where you boarded, on the left-hand side of the boat, there is another set of stairs that takes you down one flight into the bilges of the boat, and that's where the toilets are located. Smoking is permitted on the top deck only. Starboard side, next to the funnel, you'll find an ashtray. Please do not throw cigarette butts into the water. Please place spur the cable as you're driving along Bryant Road. If you are familiar with the island ship. Just to be able to go across Sunderland Railway level crossing. To our right hand side where you can see that factory, that was where HMS Wildfire 3 was situated, a barracks that was home to many of the servicemen during the Second World War, and in particular to the minesweepers and torpedo boats that were based in the swale here. They used to use this jetty to bring runs anchored either side of us. Coming up on our left is where we used to have two prison ships, HMS Edgar and HMS Balrogman. Conditions were pretty rife on board, with many of the inmates suffering from scurvy and malnutrition. In the 1820s, we ended up with an outbreak of large wind turbines of which generate electricity using renewable energy. Whilst we're burning fossilised fuels on our left, we're gaining renewables on our right, probably helping to keep the port's electricity bills down. The port of Sheerness, although on that fleet put to sea using the southwesterly prevailing winds, it was the Medway fleet that reached the Armada first. But when those ships returned back into port, quite often they'd have to wait for the winds to blow in the right direction to take them further upriver. Here in the Medway, the southwesterly prevailing winds assisted, and quite often we get those winds. So we've actually got a north-easterly wind starting to develop this afternoon. So it would be such wind like that would actually blow ships back in. The Medway fleet managed to reach the Spanish Armada first because the others were windlocked. They were stuck in port, particularly Portsmouth. So hence why we established a naval port here at Sheerness. So ships could return back. They didn't have to necessarily wait for the tide or wind to blow in the right direction, and light repairs could be carried out on the entrance to the Medway. Hellos there to our right. Cement. You get a cement boat coming in, taking it ashore there. Concrete is also made in the ground behind. We've also got some aggregate berths and timber from Norway. Steel goes into the Wellmarsh plant and scrap is exported. If you can get the light just right, sometimes you'll notice that underneath these jetties, whilst all of these warehouses are built on stilts, you can sometimes see the old granite walls of the original dockyard at the back. Ships, minesweepers. And as we pass by the yellow sheds, a small dock entrance appears. It's in here where the RNLI, Royal National Lifeboat Institute, keep their offshore weather lifeboat. We have Shannon Mast here at Sheerness. It's also this morning. We've passed by a small white sailing ship, HMS Gannet, within Chatham Historic Dockyard. And if you look in that small gap to our right, where those porter cabins are, you will see the bottom of a slipway. And it was in this slipway in 1869 where HMS Gannet was launched, down first into the river. There's also a couple of dry docks in there, which were in use up until the 1960s, well, before closing down. Today, all that area is a little bit forlorn, run down, old boat sheds sitting at the back, and as we go by, you'll even notice the old naval water tower. Sitting on the point here, we have a number of tugs. The Switzer tugs. These huge vessels help assist some of the ships in and out of the port of Medway. Some of the bigger ones make their way up to the London Gateway site, where they deal with some of the biggest ships in the world, sitting them alongside. Behind the tugs, a granite-built fort, very similar to Hoor Fort and Darnet Fort, we saw it earlier, with the radar tower situated on the top, home to Medway BTS Vessel Traffic Services. They're the people we talk to on the ship's radio whenever we depart of the aircraft. Remotely from a guy sitting on his computer in Liverpool. Yeah, strong scouser on the Off to our left, we can see a Martello Tower. It's a granite-built fort built at the same time as Garrison Fort to our right, and these two forts protected the entrance of the River Medway from enemy attack. Guns were trained on the Medway approach channel and could be fired if necessary. But by 1910, the guns on the Martello Tower that had been removed, they were replaced with quick firing guns. We were now, rather than looking to the sea, we were looking to the air, because it was a lot more likely that planes, particularly German airplanes, were flying up the Thames to bomb our capital. After the war, this tower was pretty much closed down. By 1960, it was all abandoned. And then it's been up for sale several times. I've seen various prices on there, £500,000, and I think it finally sold under the hammer for about £140,000 earlier last year. It has no running water, there is no electricity. You need a boat to get to it at high water. Your driveway covers over by the tide every 24 hours. I don't know what the postman would do, but you shouldn't forget your address, because it has probably one of the most exclusive addresses in the country. Number 1, the Thames.
That's cool.
So to our right-hand side now, having passed by Sheerness, we're now looking down the North Shetland coastline, past Sheerness-on-Sea, Minster, Eastchurch. And where you can see that last little cliff dropping down into the water, that is Warden Point. Many people ask us, can you see Margate from here? Unfortunately, Margate is nearly 20 nautical miles from where we're currently located. So you can't see Margate. But what you can see is about 9 miles. As a rule of thumb, if we're looking out to the horizon, about 9 nautical miles. The bit of land, the grey land that you see jutting out from Warden Point on the Isle of Sheppey, that is about Herne Bay. That's about as far as you can see today. Even though it's lovely, crystal clear. 9 miles off of Sheerness, we find also a set of anti-aircraft gun emplacements. Now, if you're following the horizon along from the right, out into the centre of the sea, you see some unusual sort of dots on the horizon, and that of course is the Red Sand Towers, situated 9 nautical miles. Beyond the Red Sand Towers there is the Shivering Sand Towers, which is a further 4 miles behind it. You can't see the Shivering Sand, you can only see the Red Sand, but it kind of gives you an understanding of how far you can actually see today. Only about 9 miles. Masts that are fairly close together are still attached to the forward end of the ship, the front. The rear mast that is angled away and set closer to the Kent shore is attached to the rear half of the wreck. The 3 masts can be seen short pointing out in different angles. Back in the 90s, it was still possible to ascend the ship's bridge, poking out, zooming out of the water, but now that has long but collapsed into a 20-foot break that exists between the 2 sections of the ship. The SS Richard Montgomery is a US-built Liberty ship. Liberty ships were built during the Second World War to replace the tonnage that had been lost in the North Atlantic by the hands of the German U-boats. Every shipyard around the US coastline were building this style of ship. They were quick and easy to build, using traditional methods of riveting. Ships often took about a year or 18 months to construct. But Liberty ships were welded. Using welding processes, we can now build ships on the shore and then lower them into the dry dock, stitching them together at last minute. And on our right-hand side, you notice we've actually got another seal in the water.
Yeah, it's a seal.
Swimming back towards Sheerness.
Here's the seal.
A little way. Hello, Sammy. On average, 3 ships a day were being launched over in America. To replace that tonnage, of course, we were then starting to build ships quicker than the Germans could sink us. By the end of the war, over 2,700 Liberty ships had been constructed, and these then were the common sight across the North Atlantic. Today, only 4 Liberty ships remain afloat. There's one in San Francisco Harbour, the Jeremiah O'Brien. The John W. Brown sits in the Delaware River. We also have a vessel called the Helena Liberty or something like that, that is in Piraeus in Greece, and the other one we believe is somewhere in Russia, but we haven't yet managed to trace it down. So now we're north on the Sheerness Middle Sound. We're now technically entering the River Thames, and as we do, we effectively cross a line. You can see that line making its way out to sea now as we go from the warmer waters of the River Medway into the colder waters of the Thames. And yet the
so
rivers
cool.
are kind of quite mixed. It kind of gives us a
You can see
line
it.
in the water where the tide is ebbing out of both rivers.
Okay, we are getting now close to Southend Pier, and it's gonna be pretty cool because from where we dock, then we can take a train, as this is the longest pleasure pier of the world. It's 2.1 or 2.3 kilometers long, I don't remember exactly. So it's quite a walk. And that's why there's a train that serves it every half an hour.
And pushchairs. Please use this opportunity to have a good look round where you're seated. Make sure you have remembered now all of your personal belongings. We don't want to go spoiling anybody's day now by leaving something behind. This vessel is out on tours for the rest of the day, so please take absolutely everything with you. Please don't leave personal.
The pier. You can see how long it is. Wow. I've been to the other end of it many years ago, but I've never been on it because I had other things to do. And now I'm gonna cross it. The sandy beaches going all around. It is a Sunday, so I expect there's gonna be lots of people out today. capture it all. So going around it. Okay, let me show you the pier going all the way. Loads of seaweed on the stilts. This is so cool. Whoops! And we have docked. Okay. We are leaving at 5 o'clock. So I have 5.5 hours, not quite, well, let's say 5 to explore, and I know what I want to do. I'll tell you later.
Train, 5 o'clock departure. If you miss the 4:30 train, you're going to need to get a jog on to get out to the end of the pier. Also, if you do miss that 4:30 train, please do not think that we will be waiting for the 5 o'clock departure. Okay, please be respectful of others. We've got a trip that goes all the way back to Chatham today, which will not be getting back until around about 7:30. So any delay there will just cause others to be delayed significantly this evening, especially as we won't make the tide.
Okay, the train is coming in. I don't know if it shows.
Train, if you miss that 4:30, you will need to.
And I'm off the boat. This was so cool. Honestly, I feel like a kid again. Now let's get to the train because I don't want to waste time walking all the way out. There's some Western show getting. I don't know. Okay. And I'll just show you what's happening here at the end of the pier. You can sit and have your lunch, beer, coffee, whatever you will. But I need to go that way. Okay. I like this old structure. And there's our lovely boat. We'll do it quickly so we can see it from this side as well. Just realized that I don't have much time and to catch the train, or I missed it already. I don't know. Missed it. Okay, looks like I'm walking. Well, I wanted to show you this old one. Okay, I found things to do and waited for the next train. I wanted to show you that